Sean Michael Small joined WSN just a little later than George Umbala Joseph.
I think about a month.
Yeah, probably about a month. George Umbala Joseph actually started the early morning show here on WESN. It was the George Umbala Joseph morning show. And then that went into Bread and Butter, and then that went into AM Prime. But I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Umbala and to work with him. And a well-spoken individual, a man of many opinions, and a man of great language and of great character. And you may not agree with many of the things that he suggested or said, but one thing is for certain, the man was a gentleman. The man had a character and an aura about him of which you can sit down and speak to him for hours. And it's unfortunate yesterday morning that we learned of his demise at the age of 84 years old. We're not sure exactly what transpired in terms of what took his life, but the story surrounding his death is absolutely tragic. And again, I say it's not just Mr. Umbala, who he was fondly referred to, who faced such a situation, but once more it was highlighted. He was admitted to the St. James Medical Complex on Tuesday, spent 3 days under a tent on the hospital's compound along the Western Main Road before being warded. He reached out to a fellow media practitioner to highlight his plight. He says that he continued to be subjected to the heat, and the heat has been scorching these days. Fumes from passing vehicles, the portable toilet, which he was unable to use due to his limited mobility. He at times was forced to relieve himself behind the tent. Now, even in these moments, he went on to say, I'm not complaining because I'm not expected to be treated better or different. I'm complaining because that is what people have to go through. If you saw the filthy condition, it will appall you. Now, the Northwest Regional Health Authority, their Chief Executive Officer, Anthony Blake, he responded to the situation, admitting they continue to experience challenges in maintaining a parallel healthcare system. He acknowledged that staff members were struggling with the lack of capacity for patients admitted via the accident and emergency, and they strive to follow a policy to facilitate those suspected of COVID-19. Okay, usually you would accept this, but the family of Mr. Umbala came out and said his PCR test returned negative. Mm-hmm. They couldn't understand why he was in a tent, in the heat, having to inhale car fumes, having to relieve himself behind a tent, and based off of this story, we're still not entirely sure what led to his demise.
More importantly, yes, I understand we're still in a pandemic, but for the most part, society's opened up. So really and truly, at some point, your protocols are especially if you had a positive test, fine, I understand that. Have something to treat with that. But don't have it be, well, no. We're going to section things off, and if things aren't available, things aren't available, because we have to be ready for a next wave of COVID that there's no indication for coming around the horizon while people are currently suffering. The thing with triaging is you do it in the moment. You are responding to the conditions as they happen. You don't say, well, you know what, we need to leave some beds aside because we might have worse people off, right? And then you have unused capacity in the middle of a crisis. So during COVID, yes, you make hard decisions, you do what you have to do because it's running rampant. Now it's different and you have to adjust your thinking. And it sounds as though they didn't adjust their thinking, and then I could add more colorful language as to why they didn't adjust their thinking.
Even on his deathbed, he kept saying, I'm not complaining because I don't expect to be treated any differently. And this is something he always spoke about.
Did he know he was on his deathbed?
I don't think he knew he was on his deathbed. And this is why it pains me to try and figure out exactly what happened. Mr. Umbala, listen, you were a man that already fought to raise and highlight the conditions across Trinidad and Tobago, and the same things that you complain about, well, you fell victim to, and we're really sorry. But for me, it was a pleasure having met you, a pleasure having to get to know you in the time that we spoke and we worked together. And honestly, sir, rest in peace.
And the unfortunate thing about the situation is COVID has taught us how fragile human health could be. We should have known better than to subject an elderly gentleman to these sorts of things. And this is not the first time I've heard of public health causing the death of someone that appeared, at least on the surface, unnecessary. So to some degree, yes, COVID, tragedy, too many people probably died. And now I do have to ask the question, because we're probably not tracking this statistic, how many people are like this? And I think, yes, if there's one thing, ironically, he was treated just like anybody else. But this is bad. This is not, well, it's bad for a celebrity. No, it's bad for everybody. And if this is how people are generally treated, as he rightfully said, it's good to highlight the conditions that the public has to go through.
And more chances than not, it is highly likely that if a government minister were to fall ill, they'd be in a private hospital.
Oh, yeah.
So they have no clue.
No, they have a private room in Mount Hope.
Wine and dine all that you want. Get your salary at the end of every month. Even our public healthcare system. Where is the Minister of Health this morning? I wonder.